So, kids got sick, so I am out of class today. Don't know when I'll be back, so we'll kind of see what happens with that. Kids get sick. What can you do? So, my goal in these videos is I'm going to try and teach through the rest of the packet by video. It's not ideal, but hey, it's kind of what we have to do. You can kind of control, pause it when you need to, rewind it when you need to, do those things to make sure you get through and finish the rest of the notes, because we will have a quiz kind of looming whenever I get back. You know, I don't know what the future holds. So, where I left us last time is we were doing domain and range. Domain and range. So domain we know is all about x's. Domain is all about x's, and it's going to move us left to right. Left to right is what we're looking for there. Range is all about y's, and we're interested in low to high. So hopefully you still have some Post-its. If you don't, there's Post-its all around my room. Just ask the sub, you can get some. So we're going to try and identify the domain and range of these last two graphs that I left, and then we'll go from there. So if I'm focusing on the domain here, I need to find the leftmost part of this graph. So I'm going to line up my Post-it on the left. There it is. And then I would want to line up my Post-it on the right, but it's an arrow, meaning this graph continues out forever and ever and ever. So there is no Post-it on the right. And I've talked about this in class before, so here's another example. Once you got your Post-its down, then try and figure out the numbers. After we figure out the numbers, then we'll worry about parentheses, brackets, those things. So on the left side here, my Post-it for an x value, we're looking at the x-axis, my Post-it is at -2. So for my domain, I'm going to start with -2. But on the right side, I don't have a Post-it at a number. It just continues on forever and ever and ever. So when you have an arrow, this is one of those situations where you're going to use, since we're in the positive direction, positive infinity, because this graph continues forever. There is nowhere I could possibly put this Post-it to find the end of that. So, got my Post-its, got my numbers. Now it's time to worry about parentheses versus brackets. So on that left side, the left side, also the left side down here, I see a filled in circle. I see a filled in circle, so that is a bracket. That is a bracket. We are going to include that point. On the right side, we had talked about when we have arrows continuing on forever and ever and ever, that is always a parentheses situation. So that would be my domain. And now we're going to transition to range. So range, we're worrying about low to high. So I'm going to take my Post-its off. I'm going to try and find my lowest point, put my Post-it, see what y value we're at. Try and find the high point, put my Post-it there, see where my value is at. So on the low end, there is the low end right there. That's the lowest this graph goes. On the high end, I would want to put it up here, but that again is an arrow, meaning this is going to continue on forever and ever and ever. So we can't really put a Post-it on the top end. So my Post-its are established. Now let's try and figure out the numbers. So on the low end, the y value, the number I see on the y-axis here is -1. So I'm going to write down a -1. Since my graph is continuing on up, 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 and never stopping, that is a positive direction, so we're going to put positive infinity. Positive infinity. So I had to move this out of the way so we could see. So -1 to positive infinity. Got to figure out brackets or parentheses. Down here at -1, I saw a filled in circle, so I'm going to have a bracket. And at the top, I see an arrow, which is going to always be parentheses. Neat. To the next problem. Another one that kind of goes up, kind of goes down. That's great. We got to figure out domain and range. So we'll do domain in blue, worried about our x's, range in y. So again, bring those Post-its back. Domain, we're worried about our left and right. Left and right. Figure out where your view is. So on the left side, we're right here. Kind of restrict my view right there. On the right side, the rightmost part of this graph is all the way over here. That's how my vision is going to be restricted. I'm stuck to this space right here. The leftmost part of this, I need to figure out the x value here. The leftmost part of this is all the way at -3, so I'm going to put that point. On the rightmost side, the x value there is +1. So with domain, I'm looking at the x-axis there for numbers. With domain, look at the x-axis for numbers. So -3, 1. Finally, after numbers, we're going to figure out parentheses versus brackets. So since I have an open circle, on the left side, we're going to have a parentheses to go with that open circle. On the right side, I see another open circle. So that's going to be a parentheses on the right side of my answer here. So that is my domain. That is my domain. I'm going to peel my Post-its off. Now we're going to switch to range. Range is you're going to find the low point. You're going to find the high point, see where your graph is in between, and kind of figure it out from there. So the lowest my graph goes is all the way down here. The highest this graph goes is not this point, but this peak right here. So I'm not covering up any of my graph. There's the low, there's the high for the range. So the lowest point, since we're talking about range, we're talking about y. I'm going to get my answers, my numbers from the y-axis here. I'm going to get my answers from the y-axis. On the low end, I'm at the y-axis at -2. So I'm going to write down -2. On the high end, I'm all the way up on the y-axis at +3. +3, so I'm going to write down a +3. So there's my numbers. Did my Post-its, did my numbers. Now it's time for parentheses versus brackets. So I see an open circle on the low end, so I need a parentheses on the low end. I see a filled in point on the high end, so I need a bracket on the high end there. So that is our final two problems on just domain and range. So this is going to be the first of several videos I'm going to record. I'm going to stop this one here so it doesn't go on forever, and then I'll make another one for the next section notes. So you could turn over to the next page and go on to the next video.